after Tampa for you, who do you think is going to be that next team in the NFC?
Vish, one.
Yeah, Vish.
I'll take it. I'll take it first. I think it'll be the Rams.
Okay.
With the Rams, I just look first. I'm confident in their coaching staff. I believe in Sean McVay. I believe in Raheem Morris. Raheem Morris is who I wanted the Niners to hire to replace Robert Saleh. I believe in what he did schematically at the end of last season with the Atlanta Falcons on defense. I thought he was way more creative than Dan Quinn ever was. So first, I believe in their coaching staff. Then I believe in their quarterback. Everybody knows how I feel about Matthew Stafford. I think he's a big-time quarterback that's a perfect fit for their system. I think they have a solid offensive line, obviously a great play caller in Sean McVay. They have a good running game. Blake and I are huge Cam Akers fans, and we're really bullish on where his future is going to be.
And then you look at I'm an FSU guy. I love Cam Akers, man. I'm all about Cam Akers.
He's a stud.
He is a freaking stud.
Yeah, and then you look at their defense, and I understand that they lost Michael Brockers and a John Johnson. I think the Brockers loss is a little overstated. They replaced him, to me, quite comfortably with Ashawn Robinson. John Johnson is a big loss. He's a top 5, 6, 7 safety in the NFL. He is an absolute baller. But I think when you have a secondary with Jalen Ramsey, there are things you can do to schematically help your other safeties out because you have one guy who takes away half the field and can lock up any receiver in the NFL. Obviously, we know the impact Aaron Donald has. Leonard Floyd went from looking like a major bust in Chicago to having 10 sacks last year. That's a testament to how special Aaron Donald is, and he dominates every game in and game out. I still think there are question marks where you would like to see some improvements with the Rams. But when you go top to bottom, I look at who their coaches are. I look at who their quarterback is. I look at the consistency of how they've been winning in the NFC West and in the NFC in general the last 4 years with Jared Goff. I think the Rams are the second best team in the NFC.
And I think just real quick, just the only issue I think that with the Rams is the question of depth on that team right now. I think that's the biggest question surrounding that team by far. But Blake, for you, who do you think is that team after Tampa in the NFC?
Yeah, I was on the fence about this one. I like the Rams a lot. They were one of my teams. I love the Stafford pickup, but for me, I'm going with the team that finished first in the NFC last year, and that's the Packers. Now, I look at the teams that made the playoffs, and I look at the top teams, and I don't know. For me, like the Seahawks are, I don't know. I don't trust the Seahawks in any way. I know regular season they're gonna probably kill it, but the NFC West, I just have a tough time putting one of those teams as second because I could see that division going any way with the rankings. Maybe besides the Cardinals being the first team, I don't think they'll be the first, but the other three teams I could see being the first. And I look at the divisions, and I'm not completely sold on the Bears and Lions. I like the Vikings a lot, but I'd have the Packers comfortably above them. I don't think any NFC East teams there. Buccaneers we mentioned from the NFC South, but the Saints have way too many question marks at quarterback, although they could be good. And then the NFC West is a bloodbath, though. So I think with schedule, and then the Packers didn't really lose too many pieces. They lost a little depth, like with Kirksey, with Ricky Wagner and guys along those lines. But overall, it's not like any of the major parts are missing. And then one thing again, too, is LaFleur is still there and in his third season. And so far, you can't really complain with the results that he's had now. Yeah, he's had Aaron Rodgers and a pretty good roster, but it's a huge upgrade from what McCarthy was doing. And here's the other thing with the Rams, Vish, that was not mentioned. But the Staley loss, the DC gone, he was incredible last year. And I don't know if he's going to be, or I think you said Raheem Morris, right, is the DC. Now, he could be every bit as good as who they had, but I don't know because what he did was incredible.
So I'll say this right now. I think Staley is a big loss. I don't think schematically Raheem Morris is going to be as good as Staley. Staley was wildly creative last year. Yeah. He was doing some special things. But I think Raheem Morris is good enough when you have Aaron Donald and you have Jalen Ramsey. It's still going to be a really, really good defense. Maybe it won't be the same special defense that carried them last year, but it won't have to be because I think they'll be a better offensive football team with Matthew Stafford under center.
Fair enough.
And for me, that kind of takes me perfectly right to where I wanted to go, Vish, which is I picked the Rams too. And I'm not just trying to agree with you, Vish. We seem to be agreeing a lot. But with the Rams, I look at them and they're one of the only teams in the playoffs that you could argue significantly upgraded at key spots where they needed to, right? I think with the team like the Saints, they're getting worse at their quarterback position pretty much no matter what. Now, hey, like I said, I'm an FSU guy. Jameis, he has a perfect passer rating in the playoffs. Might be only one pass. But no, seriously, if you look up and down the NFC, there are all these teams that I have so many question marks about. The 49ers, of course, are one of those teams, but they weren't even in the playoffs last year. I don't feel like the Seahawks necessarily got any better, like you guys covered already. And with the Packers, they did lose some of that depth on their offensive line. So I think the Rams, to me, just looking at the NFC as a whole, the difference between Jared Goff and Matt Stafford, it's going to be enormous. And I think that is the kind of thing that where they might have lost some depth on their team on defense, especially. It's not going to matter as much when you upgrade at the quarterback position like they did. And Vish, you also covered this perfectly with the Rams defense. Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald make life so much easier for the other 9 guys on the field. I mean, more than any other team in the NFL, they simplified the job of all those other players on their defense. So I think with all of that, and like you said, Vish, I mean, I really do believe in Raheem Morris too. Brandon Staley, I'm a huge fan of, but going from one defensive coordinator to another, like even the 49ers did this offseason, I think they're about in as good a position as anyone who did that. So just looking up and down the roster at the star power they have, that's a team I'm terrified of. And I think they're seriously going to win at least 11 games, if not 12 or 13 this season.
Yeah, and honestly, I think people, when they look at that roster, they look at some of the depth issues and all of that. I don't think people realize, Blake hates this word, but the gravity that both Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey create. Like, honestly, the only thing I can compare it to is having Ray Lewis and Ed Reed on the same defense. They have the 2 best defensive players in the NFL playing on the same defense. That makes it very easy for the other guys on there. Now, they don't have their Terrell Suggs, but there's a lot of really good players that came through Baltimore in defense that we thought were a lot better than they actually were because they played with those guys. So I think that's the impact. And I don't want to be positive about the Rams. Obviously, I'm a Niners fan, but if you objectively look at it, when you have those 2 guys, it's very difficult to not have an excellent defense because those 2 guys are future Hall of Famers for sure.
Yeah, and with Sean McVay, like I believe in that guy. So I think he's going to do really well. And because of that, I think the Rams are going to do really well. So 49ers fans, they might feel a certain way about that, but I don't know what to tell you guys.